So now this thing is asking if I want to go live. Okay, am I live now? All right, I guess I am. It says going live. Okay, I was just explaining on my flying that I created a new type of a checklist that goes on my knee board. It's a little bit easier to deal with. It's got little flip tabs on it and so on. So I just have the items that I need for the next upcoming operation, because trying to remember all the different things you do as you go around the pattern are impossible for me. So I'm trying, instead of, the typewritten checklist in a card format, I've got these little flip cards. They're 4x6 cards, and I've got little tabs on them. So I just pick up the tab, flip it over, and the next item on the list, like for example, after getting on the runway and going to take off, once you pass the end of the active runway, I'll flip that over before I start. It says remove 1 notch flaps. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to try that and see if that works. I had a heck of a time getting the cameras working, but they're working. So here we go. Here we are. It's just a matter of the settings. I hope the video is coming through. It's supposed to be full HD. I don't know if it is. Okay. Audio works? Yes. Okay, all set. No, I've got the camera working now. Okay. Can see you, yes. 5x5, very good. You are live. Hello, Augies from Northern Illinois. Just got Ghana on 30 meters. I was doing a video yesterday. I was doing a video where I was trying to capture some audio on the SDR here. It's on 20 meters. I was testing a 20-meter antenna. The what's the name of that thing? By here it is. The Isotron. Let me try. A 20-meter antenna. And it is currently up outside, and I did a bunch of testing comparing that antenna with my vertical and with my beam, all on 20 meters. And the bottom line was it's a pretty compromised antenna. It's not as good as a dipole by quite a bit. It would be the kind of antenna you might use to do FT8 or something like that. It is extremely small. That video, I think, comes out Sunday, so you can look for that here. For POTA activations, I have checklists. Yes. You know what I used to do, rather than checklists when I was young and doing the equivalent of summits in the air, was to draw pictures of everything that I needed. I'd draw the whole configuration, everything, and then from that, kind of use that as a checklist. Minimum ground wire gauge for antenna in Canada. Well, I know it's number 6 in the United States, but that's just at DC. Well, 60 hertz is DC, but relative. Okay. POTA, yeah. Minimum ground wire. Good morning, Dave. You must be in the other side of the world. Randy Shugart says he's reading me well. Don DeGidio sends $25 for channel funds. Says enjoy the live streams and all your videos. WJ3U. Thank you, Don. And hello, Tricia. My sister is listening, wondering what her brother is up to. Up to no good, I'll tell you that. Had an interesting conversation with the American Radio Relay League today. We came to agreement, but it's not going to be released for another month. So, oh well. In the meantime, I'm getting started working on it, but I think you'll find it interesting. because it will not affect my videos. I'm going to continue to do the videos just like I am now. Okay, U is 20 over now. Okay, camera's fine. Still hear the clock. Yeah, yeah. I thought of moving the clock over on that wall, but I don't know. I just have always been fascinated by mechanical clocks. Okay, streaming at 1080. Okay, very good. So you can see each hair is gray. Well, actually, it's not all gray. Tried one of those antennas years ago. William, what was your experience with it? My experience is it's about half as good as a dipole. Sort of like putting a dipole in an attic or something like that. And I just did on receive because it's going to transmit as well as it receives. So what I used was, I've got a switch over here for the different antennas. I just switched back and forth between the antennas and showed it on the screen. By the way, it will show the camera work, the first camera work of my new assistant, Callum Jakeman. Callum is 17. He is a high school student at Peak Academy in Montrose, and he is helping me working around his school schedule. And he's one of these young men. He's a junior. He's taking some college classes and stuff like that. Very bright. You only have to show him once or twice, and he's got it. And he is actually doing editing, okay, which is really nice because then I can work on creating. Okay, audio now back. Bought a bunch of those removed before flight keychain tags and placed those in the various pockets of my backpack when I remove something from that pocket. You know, I've done something, well, it's stupid, but not unusual for one in his 70th year. I've lost my glasses. Fortunately, I can still fly because I don't normally wear sunglasses when I fly. Everyone else does. I don't. I don't know why, but I do have my sunglasses that I can wear while I fly. So I'll be doing that on Monday. I'm going down to an optical shop in Montrose that said they can make glasses for me pretty quick because I've got the prescription from last December, so it's quite recent. And Don DeGidio is saying hi to my sister. Don't move the clock. Yeah, I kind of like it. The thing is huge. It's like 3 feet tall and over a foot wide, and it's a wind-up clock. There's also a chime in it. It will chime on the quarter hour, and then it will chime the number of the hour. And the problem is that it's so loud that even if I'm on the radio, I have to stop what I'm doing and wait for it to finish chiming. And there's no way you can turn that on and off. So if I wind it, it's going to chime for a month. So I don't wind the chime part. I just wind the other part. I mean, I like the chime, but not when it gets in the way of work. Okay, let's see. What is my favorite kind of antenna? Simple, cheap. In other words, a dipole. The dipole that's part of the reference station is actually an off-center fed dipole, and it is cheap. It's not very expensive. It's under $100. Verticals will give you about the same gain as a dipole, but verticals, people want to go multi-band with them, and they tend to get expensive. You can pay $600 for a vertical antenna, and they can be very nice antennas. I've used them, but think about this. They don't give you that much more than a dipole. Now, I know there's people who are going to say, well, you get a lower angle of radiation and so on and so forth. And yeah, that's true. But with your lower angle of radiation, you're then ignoring the people who are closer in. So maybe 2 antennas. But a dipole, if you've got some spare Romex sitting around, you can rip that open, put a dipole together for practically nothing. So Let's see, and Felipe Lewis has sent $50, says, appreciate your videos. Keep up the good work. Just curious on your thoughts on how close a cell phone tower can be to an apartment or condos before it is too close. Thanks. 100 to 200 feet. It would be nice. The antennas used in them are quite directional. So if it's above you, like on the roof of your apartment building, you're okay, because it goes out rather than down. Any signal down is wasted, and believe me, these guys don't want to waste a thing. So they want to get their beams formed just perfectly and so on to make it work. Let's see, James says, don't move the clock, then I won't be able to tell if you're live. All right, I'll leave it right there. And hi from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Good to have you with us, says Sir Isaac Newton. And Trish says hi to Don. K8GIM, my experience was not very good either, but it was all I could afford and had room for at the time. Well, I hope you were able to get some contacts with it. I'm sure that if I did, although it will only accept about 200 or 300 watts, so I couldn't put my amp behind it and push more signal out. Hello from Kalamazoo. Yeah, I don't wind the chime. I don't wind it. My favorite antenna is full-size 160V, fed at center with window line. Well, you can use that on any band. Yeah, the new eyeglasses. Wow. And Marshall Harris says he swears by ZS6BKW, which is a reworked, modernized G5RV. I've not tried it yet. Have you any good or bad on the Elenco power supply? Yes. They have a little knob on the front of them. I don't know if they have it on all of them, where you can vary the frequency of the slicer. It's usually about 50K that runs the switching part of the switching power supply. And you can move it so if it interferes with your signal, you can move it out of the way to some other thing. My response to that is, why isn't the thing properly filtered so you don't need that little button? I would recommend the reference station power supply. If you want to save a bit of money, both MFJ and PowerWorks have supplies that are less expensive. You can call DX Engineering or somebody like that and talk about it with them. It says, I love my 10-meter dipole, but I can go much further with 5 elements. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Take a look at the DX Commander. I look at the DX Commander every day. It's sitting out in the backyard, 3/4 finished. And now that I have an assistant again, we'll get that thing up and tested. I've heard very good things about it. It's like a fan dipole, except it's a fan vertical. What do you think of the AV680? It's a antenna. You need to get it up so the bottom's about 10 feet off the ground. Okay. Otherwise, it's not going to perform as well as a standard vertical. The Alpha Delta DXCC, is that the 80-meter one, I think? I know the Alpha Delta DXEE is a 40, 20, 15, and 10-meter affair, and is really sturdy. I mean, I think after Armageddon, that antenna will still be there. That is a sturdy thing. The AV680, it says it gives you part of 80 meters. What they don't tell you in the advertisement it only gives you a teeny part of 80 meters. And you have to choose which part you want. And it's by no means the whole band. It's not even a fifth of the band. It's about 15 to 25 kilohertz of a 500 kilohertz band. Let's see, love the clock. Reminds the days of the Hammerland boat anchors, which used to have clocks in them. They'll have a Hammerland 140, cool. Christopher Goodman from St. Cloud, Minnesota. Grimace has a ZS6BKW at hunting cabin. Uses 6BTV, which is what, a Hustler, with 3 added bands and a terminated end-fed inverted V at my home shack. Good. Good, good. Your ham shack grounding video, that's Ask Dave number 8. That was a long time ago. I'm up into the Ask Dave 420s now. Thank you for the compliment. Other than the radio and the antenna, what would you buy to complete the shack? Go to dcasler.com, D-C-A-S-L-E-R, 1 S, no T, dcasler.com/reference. And that will list the reference station. It will list all the different things that you need with specific part numbers. You can get it all at DX Engineering. And if you have no strong reason to do otherwise, like you love Yaesu or something like that, just buy what's in the reference station. It's got the coax listed, it's got the antenna, it's got the grounding kinds of things and all that. And it's all listed there, so you should have it. Okay. Don Negedio later this year will be replacing my aging tri-band Yagi with a Step-IR DB18 that will give me 40 to 6 and a steerable antenna. Ron Rich, N6GR, has that antenna. Get in touch with him, and he'll tell you all about it. I did a video on his antenna. In fact, I took my drone down there so I could get some close-ups of the elements from 100 feet up in the air. And Holy Demand says, howdy, howdy, y'all. Now, by the way, Ron he may be listening. He has an interesting problem. He has built himself a top-of-the-line station. 1,500 watts. He's got, that software-defined radio that's made in America. And that I can never remember the name of. He's got a tall tower. He's got that antenna. He has been telling me it's a little too easy sometimes. He says he can break any pile up, and it seems to have taken a little bit of the challenge out of it. So things will change here. Checklists in aviation are usually designed to follow a flow pattern of work, your hands in the cockpit, to set the aircraft up for whatever, really not a check and do list. I know, I understand that, but if you glance at the checklist, you might remember something that you would otherwise forget, in my case, the flaps. We flew all the way from Montrose to Delta with one notch of flaps in. Neither of us noticed it. That's the kind of thing that if you have a checklist in front of you and you just glance at it, you go, oops, forgot the flaps. So, and let's see. You know, when you walk in the door with your new glasses, your old pair will be sitting there staring you in the face. Yes, I do know that. I know that will happen. They are here somewhere. 3/4 of the way closer to building the DX Commander than Jason. Okay. Your thoughts on the FCC changes to RF exposure evaluations? I will be doing a series of videos on that after I understand it better. The ARRL has a section of the ARRL handbook that they have made available online. If you go to ARRL and search RF exposure, it'll take you to this. This is the section of the ARRL handbook on RF exposure. What it does not tell you how to do is the evaluation. However, they have a book for sale, but they'll give it away free. They'll give you a soft copy for free so that you can do the station evaluation. Um, basically, where you will run into issues is 15 meters and above, up to 10 meters and 6 meters. By the time you get up to 2 meters, you're probably okay. So, but if you put out a lot of power on 10 meters or something like that, then yeah, you're going to have to do an evaluation. You may find that the evaluation says you have no problem, but you got to have it written down and in your log. I did an evaluation, date such and such. This is the configuration. These are the charts I used. Here's the, and if you have to do any remediation for one, you can put a taller tower and get the thing higher, or cut your power back, or whatever it may be. What do you think of the ASU FTM400 XDR for mobile use? I don't know. I'm not familiar with that rig. Okay, Bear Bass says, hi gang, and Roger Schultz says, good evening. Optical Man Jeff, what do you use when you are in your travel trailer for an antenna? I carry with me a buddy pole, and that seems the easiest for that. Let's see. Okay, bought the ASU for a new about the reference station. Okay, well, I don't have a VHF reference station yet. Okay, Flex Radio. Yes, that's what Rich, first name is Brad, N6GR, has, yes. Okay, professional commercial pilots always use long and short checklist. Watch many of those videos. Yeah, the idea is I've got little tabs on them, so I don't have to kind of pry cards apart and stuff like that. Just flip the tab and it's the next one. Flip the tab and it's the next one. Christopher Goodman sends $10 for the channel funds and says, thank you, Dave, for all your sage advice. How about a reference toolbox? Well, that's an interesting question. I'll have to think about that. And Mark Kidd is going QRP for the challenge. Yes. Well, I hate looking for my glasses. What I hate is when my wife looks for my glasses, because usually she's the one who can find them. And then if she can't find them, then I start hearing things about old and poor memory and can't keep track of anything. And you know how it goes. DX Engineering sells CAD weld. KF7P sells one too. Yep. First place to check for lost glasses, top of your head. Well, nothing up there but gray hair. Okay. Just bought a brand new ICOM 7610. Well, now that's a radio. I had Brad's for a while, and that's a very nice radio. It's a very expensive radio. What is it, $3,000, $4,000? But boy, does it have features. Gee. Okay, here is the UK documentation on EMF. Okay, Delta, Pennsylvania. And Philip Muth has checked in. Good morning from the Faroe Islands. Good morning to you. No luck on top band CW or 80 meter single side band. Yeah, of course during the day it's not working. And now that the sunspots are hinting at picking up, we'll start to see the good DX bands move up. Instead of 80 and 40 and sometimes 20, it'll be 40, 20, and sometimes 15. And then when the sunspots really get going, it's going to move up to, I can remember 1.5 sunspot cycles ago working across Russia. Might have been 2.5. Working across Russia on 15 meters at 11 o'clock at night. And having a pile up on me because these Russians were all picking it up. So, okay. If I can find our C172 checklist we had laminated, I'll send it to your email. I have a good checklist. The problem is that I laminated it, and it's a full-size piece of paper. So, okay, it's sitting up on the dashboard, so I pick it up. Let's see, where is the right one? We're right here. We got to do this, this, and this. Meanwhile, I've lost track of the airplane. So I need something that I can be looking outside. Ideally, it would be, a heads-up display, but we're not going to do that in a RAND's airplane. But just something I can glance at. And I only want a few steps at a time. I don't want to see the whole flight. Just want to see what I need to do next. So I haven't tried it yet. We'll see how it works. Okay, don't forget 30. Yes, it is. Scott Machok, KD8NPJ, sends $20 to channel funds. Thank you. It says, thanks for the help with my antenna separation anxiety. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. The video was about separating antennas, and to put the word separation anxiety in there, like a dog has when the dad goes to work, something like that. I just slipped that in there, and it seems to have gone over well. Ask Dave 416. Well, Scott, you're welcome, and I hope that your antennas work out for you. It says hello from far west Missouri. Hello there, Glenn. Good to have you. GE from 900 feet on the Colorado Front Range. Is it worth trying to figure out SWR on my HT2 external antenna? Yeah, I mean, you can look at it. If it's going to be weird. And your measurement of it is not going to be terribly accurate, but I mean, it'll give you an idea. I mean, if it's 1,000 ohms, you got a problem somewhere. But I don't usually do it. Are you going for PPL? Private pilot? No, I'm going for sport pilot. Going for sport pilot. The difference between private pilot and sport pilot is private requires an FAA medical. And the sport pilot, all I have to do is show a valid driver's license. Their theory is if you're okay to drive, you're okay to fly sport. There are limitations on altitude, 10,000 feet or 2,000 feet above terrain, whichever is higher. No night flying. You don't have to learn about VORs and stuff like that. Otherwise, it's a lot like private pilot. I mean, airplanes are airplanes. You got to learn to land them. Glenn Martin says hello from far west. Carol Ann Fisher is there. Paul Dubb. Michael Mullis, dashboard. Well, there's an instrument panel right in front of me. And then up on top of that is the glare shield, which is what I'm calling the dashboard. Okay, and then the plexiglass in front of that. Have I ever used a set of Kenwood twins? No. I can't find the cable to connect them. Any ideas? Gosh, no. You'll have to get on some Kenwood forum or something like that. Carol Ann says that is 9,000 feet. Okay. I used Bluetooth tile tag with a set of croquis for finding my eyeglasses. I know Apple's just come out with a little tag. Maybe I need to put that on my glasses because I'm forever looking for them. The other thing I'm forever looking for is my phone. But I can get my iPad out and find my phone. I want to show you something. This came in the mail. This is an old AM transmitting tube from some radio station set and mounted on a little base here. And this came to me with a letter from Mike Oswald, AA7MO, who sends a very, very nice letter. I was, I will admit to shedding a tear. but it was very, very nice. I also got a very nice letter from Powers, from Tom Powers in Woodstock, Georgia. KG4AJX, thank you very much to both of you. I will be replying in writing to both of you. But this will be a very nice conversation piece. It's, as you can see, a huge tube. And I don't know what it is. I'm guessing a triode. An amplifier tube, probably put out a few thousand watts. Okay, let's, yeah, it is really cool. Okay, let's take a look at our online questions and see what we can come up with. By the way, I'm also taking online questions, and I've got a pile of them right here, and each one of these is going to be an upcoming video. Okay, so I've been sort of going through these and seeing which ones would make good short videos. Okay, let's see, we've got to go to here, now live on your channel, and go to hamradioanswers@gmail.com. And the first entry is from Alfred VK2VAE. It's Australia. Mr. Casler, I'm not sure, but I think I found the problem. I'm having problems with that. The lead I am using for the KGUVD1P is that radio is gone. So I'm using this cable for the KGUV8H, and it probably will work. And this will work as I run the chirp program. All of the Baofeng, most, I should say, of the Baofeng, and many of the Chinese radios use the same cable. It's actually a Kenwood cable. And I have recommended to many people that you go to PowerWorks and buy the so-called red cable. I even have a video on the red cable, because that works much better with Windows 10 than sometimes the ones you get from Baofeng. He says it will work as when I run the chirp program and I set up the frequencies, it will not import them to the radio. When you install the cable, you've got to make sure, and we'll just look at the screen here, go down to Device Manager. Okay, Device Manager, and come down here where it says Ports, Common LPT. I've got two here open. This one is for the 7300, and I can't remember what that's for. That's for something. Anyway, I've got two ports open. Now note the numbers here. This is the only place you will see those numbers. So you have to go into Device Manager. Again, to get to Device Manager, right-click on Start. Go to Device Manager, and then open Ports. And you'll see the port numbers. And then use the one for the cable. If you don't do that, when you try to connect to the radio, it will not connect. So this is one reason I like the so-called red cable. I'll show you the red cable. Just right here. This is the red cable. It says, well, let's go to the screen. Not screen. screen and go to Device Manager and go to Ports. And I know this is real hard to see, but it is 1080. Let me just plug this in. There's a third one. Okay, I've got a third one. It's now COM4 because COM3 went to this other one in the first place. So I'd use COM4 in Chirp. Okay, now the reason that I recommend this red cable, which by the way is about $20 at PowerWorks, is because it does not have a prolific chip in it. And the prolific chips were counterfeited by quite a few Chinese manufacturers. Part of Chinese culture that to copy someone is a compliment. And that, of course, runs into all kinds of issues with Western ideas of intellectual property laws, which is why China just really doesn't enforce them very much. So it's not part of their, Westerners think of intellectual property theft. The Chinese think of the spread of a good idea. So anyway, that is what I would suggest that you do, is get that cable or find somebody who has a cable that works and give that a try. The cable is independent of the radio. You should put the right radio name into Chirp. I hope that helps. Okay, next one is from Reed Washington. It says, we really enjoy these live streams and all the videos. Can you please speak about the RF exposure testing we have to have completed by May 3rd? Well, nobody's going to get it completed by May 3rd. If you're operating on 20 or 40 or 80, don't worry about it. We will have to do it for others. I need to get the book and read it. And we'll do a series of videos on the RF exposure. Says he's recently returned to the hobby after a 20-year absence. Retirement is making it possible to be more active, and he's really enjoying it. Good. It's from Reed AB8AS. Okay. This next one is from Trevor, Golf 8, Whiskey, Quebec, Tango. That's from the UK. Hi Dave, I like the videos. They're great. Keep them up. My question is, where can I get an OG polo shirt? The UK YouTube site has not got them, only cups, t-shirts, and so on. Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll print this and give this to my assistant and have my assistant add the polo shirts to Teespring. If you go to YouTube, let's see, and go to screen, okay, and we'll go to YouTube. Sorry, this is a 4K screen, so, and we'll go to my videos and go to any one of the videos. You see we've got some that are not scheduled yet. Let's see, this one just came out today, how to hang ladder line. And if you go to the video, you'll note under here that there is merchandise for sale. Okay, there's mugs, there's clothing, which is mostly t-shirts, there's a sweatshirt, there's phone cases, and that's about it. So let me get back over here where I need to be. Okay, normal view. So I'll have my assistant, now that I have an assistant, he is so good. he gets things done in an hour that take me a day. Okay, so I'll have him add some polo shirts there. We'll make them. I think what I have on t-shirts now is something along the lines of "Ask me about ham radio" or something like that. Okay, this next one comes from Tom W8QJF. Says, I'm amassing my retirement station here in Florida and I hit a speed bump. I have a whole bunch of peripherals that are interconnected, mostly with coax, but some 12-volt distribution that I want to get off the desk and shelves and out of the way. Maybe a bulkhead? 3 antenna switches, 2 common mode chokes, a paired antenna disconnect actuator, MFJ bias T, etc. I don't want a piece of plywood on the wall. It does need to be somewhat accessible. Any suggestions? Well, let me show you something. I don't know, could you hear that? There's a yeah, DJ, you're absolutely right. But you are expressing a Western point of view, which I share with you, by the way. Okay. No sound on the handheld. Okay. Anyway, I got to show you. No audio on that. Let's look at that. Okay, I'll figure that out. What I wanted to show you with that, to answer this guy's question, is that my station has huge piles of clutter behind it. Now the question is what to do about that. In this little 12 by 12 foot bedroom, I've put the treadmill behind this wall of the station here, okay? And then I can get at the back of all the radios. I have tried in the past having that up against a wall, and then I have to crawl under the desk to make changes, and it's a mess. So this works very well because I can just go in the back and change something. which I'm always doing, all the time. You know, if there's some new product that needs to be tested and so on. So, I guess you can try moving your desk out from the wall or something so that stuff can hang from behind, but then you might lose your glasses over the back of it. I have an old movie sword, and more than once I've put a piece of double-sided tape on the tip of it to reach down behind the desk to pick something up and get it up, because the sword's only that thick and it can get down in there. Anyway, if anybody else has suggestions for him, go ahead. Okay, let's see. Oh, he's got a video he wants me to look at. Dave? Oh, that's me. Andy, KY4DF, has a 7300, and he uses the noise reduction feature continuously. Make sure that you try the different settings on that. He still experiences fatigue after listening for extended periods. Yeah, I would like to reduce the white noise in the hope that would reduce fatigue. I'm going to just double check with you that you're actually using NR and not NB. NB is just a noise blanker. NR is what you want, and there are multiple levels you can set that to, okay? And you can set it to get rid of a lot of the noise, but noise is well, what is it says? If you can't fix it, feature it. Noise is a feature of HF. He's tried different speakers and so on, and was intrigued by two DSP speakers, the West Mountain ClearSpeak and the BHI Limited NES, and TimeWave also has stuff. Here's the problem. They duplicate what the radio has already done. So they're not going to add much noise suppression to a signal that's already been noise suppressed. If you want the technical definitions, noise is uncorrelated signal, whereas audio is correlated. And what these things do is they look for the uncorrelated components in the signal and subtract them out, leaving just the correlated stuff, which is your speech and stuff like that. I have a patent in the area. That's how that came about. I've got a patent on actually doing this for radar, which was a fascinating few months of my life working on that one. Okay, I would not recommend buying those DSP speakers because I don't think they're going to add anything. I would recommend strongly that you use headphones. Okay, your 7300's got a nice place for them in the front. This is the Sony MDR 7506. They're professional quality, although they're not that expensive, about $100. And I just put a new set of ear cups on them, thanks to you guys, because these were really ratty and torn up, and somebody says, you know, you can get new ear cups. So I got them. And it's an 1/8 inch jack, but there's a 1/4 inch jack that screws onto this if you want that for like studio use. But I like them. The headphones are designed specifically for high fidelity response without any modifications. It doesn't do any signal processing to make the signal sound bigger or anything like that. They're designed specifically to be very flat response. But I would prefer headphones because then the signal's inside the middle of your head and you don't have the echo, and the other noises of the house tend to get damped out, and you can concentrate more on that. But yeah, noise, it's actually Rayleigh noise, not white noise, but it's can be tiresome, yes. It's not white noise. White noise is more, well, there's some white noise in it, but white noise is more what you get on the VHF, UHF bands, and so on. Okay, so that'd be my thought on that. Let's see. And that was that one. That was this one here. This one is from Phil, N6QCA. And he apparently likes Pector because it's part of his email address. Says, hi Dave, when you upgrade a program, is it wise to delete the old program first and then install a new one, or will the new program overwrite the old? I've wondered which way to go, for example, with WSJTX, JS8 call, etc. The answer is that it's highly program dependent. Follow the instructions that come with the program. Some programs, like the ones from M0MFJ demand that you uninstall the old one before you put the new one in. Some, like WSJTX, install the new version but leave the old version there. Some, for example, like my video editing software, which is CyberLink PowerDirector, comes in with just patches, basically updates their patches, and I'm on a subscription basis, so every so often they patch it to keep it current without downloading the whole thing. It's like a 2 gigabyte program. It's a very complex program. Now, the problem with deleting or not deleting, you don't want to delete, you want to uninstall. Deleting the program does not take it out of the registry. The registry is the piece of Windows that keeps track of how everything relates to everything else. And if you simply delete a program from its directory, the registry thinks it's still there. So if you go to do some things, you may end up with a conflict coming out of the registry. And that could be as bad as blue screening the computer. So you want to use the system to uninstall. Almost all software comes with an uninstall, and if it does not, Windows can uninstall it. That takes it out of there. Now, the thing you got to be careful about, uninstall can do one of two things. It can wipe every trace of the program off of there. Or, more commonly, when you uninstall, it will leave your data files there. And your favorite configuration files will stay on the computer. And you want to do that like with WSJTX and so on, because it's got your rig settings and all of that kind of stuff in there. Some properly take into account, I think Chirp is easily installed. I don't think you have to uninstall Chirp before putting in a newer version. It'll just write over the old one, but keep all your settings. So there's no simple answer to that because every program is different. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is from Chuck KB3FKH. Just watched your video. Thank you for at least trying to answer my question. In other words, I didn't answer his question. I think part of your response made sense. Well, that's good. It's helpful to remember impedance is the voltage divided by the current. Okay, so he's getting confused about antennas. If I were an expert in Smith charts, I could tell you how to look at a Smith chart and see how a transmission line transforms the impedance. You've got some special cases in ham radio. These are the ones that we usually talk about in licensing classes. If you have a piece of transmission line, and it doesn't matter what the impedance, what the characteristic impedance is, if it's 1/2 electrical wavelength long exactly, which it will be only at one frequency. Whatever impedance it sees at one end, you'll see at the other. The next special case is a quarter wave, electrical quarter wave, will, if it's open on this end, it'll be shorted on this end. It acts as a stub. And you can use that for tuning, which J-poles do. Another special case is if the antenna is 50 ohms resistive, which is good luck doing that. 50 ohms resistive, your radio is 50 ohms resistive, and the impedance of the coax is 50 ohms with no reactive part. It doesn't matter how long or short the cable is, even if it's a quarter wavelength or a half wavelength, whatever, everything is copacetic. This is what we try for with antennas. You will get some transformation of the impedance because no antenna. Okay, let's suppose you have an antenna that has no reactance. So it's resonant, right? At that frequency, it's resonant. But the chance of the impedance also being 50 ohms is pretty minuscule. You can do it with a dipole. If you have it exactly at the right height, it'll be 50 ohms. And you can get it to zero reactance. But if you move that dipole up or down an inch, it's no longer 50 ohms. It can go as low as 30, can go as high as about 100 as you move the antenna up and down. We try to get it kind of close because there's going to be an impedance transformation in the feed line, because the feed line is not an exact multiple of a half wavelength. It never is. And even if it is, if you change frequency, it no longer is. And you want to keep it within the tuning range of the radio. Okay? If you're not far off at the antenna and you're not far off at the end of the transmission line, the antenna tuner in the radio can make everything copacetic. It will have reactive elements in there that form the complex conjugate of the reactance that it sees. And that complex conjugate means if it's inductive, the antenna plus the transmission line is inductive, the tuner will be capacitive. And at that frequency, it will resonate, and so they'll just trade energy back and forth. The energy does not go into the radio. It eventually goes out the antenna. Okay? And then the other thing that the tuner does is changes the resistive value from whatever it is, 30 ohms, 50 ohms, 75 ohms, whatever, changes it to 50 for the radio. And that's the magic of an antenna tuner. So an arbitrary feed line, length of a feed line, is going to be an impedance transformer. If the load resistance is reasonably close to the transmission line impedance, there won't be a huge transformation, and your antenna tuner will handle it. The antenna tuner in a radio will go from about 12.5 ohms up to 200 ohms. Okay, so that's a reasonably wide range. It's 3 to 1 there, but it will also handle the reactive elements of that. I hope that helps. And the length doesn't matter, because if everything is 50 ohms, then there is no reactive component. And it is the reactive component that stores energy and then re-releases it later in the cycle that screws everything up. If there's no reactance in the line or the antenna, then there's nothing storing energy to send it back where it shouldn't be. Because remember, resistance only dissipates as heat, but reactance, pure reactance, does not dissipate as heat. It stores it and releases it somewhere further down the cycle. Okay, hope that helps. Let's see. This is from Rob KD1JG. My shack is on the second floor of my home, and I am trying to decide the best way to ground the station. Second floor, you've got the same problem Lou French has, yes. I currently have an inverted L installed and have an 8-foot ground rod along with 6 counterpoise radials. It's either counterpoise or a radial, bonded to the shield and the ground rod being on the second floor, adding a ground at the station to my hot water pipe system. I would think would add yet another possible counterpoise for RF and add RFI in the shack. What would be your suggestions to ground the station? Go outside your window, go straight down to the ground, put a ground rod in there. Run that on the outside of the house, run up strap or flat copper roll up into your station to your station ground. I showed you my station ground a little while ago. And then that'll be your ground. Then bond that ground with number 6 stranded bare wire that you bury a little bit over to your utility ground or your house ground. Okay, and that's the best you can do for grounding the station. Now, run all of your coax lines down to that station ground rod right below your window, which is where you have your lightning arresters. Okay, and then bring that up from there up into the shack. And that will probably be your best shot at being well grounded and avoiding issues with RFI. Okay, so everything comes from your station ground rod, which is then bonded to your household ground rod. I had somebody have an issue with me calling it a utility ground. It's whoever supplies your electricity, and to me that's your electric utility. So anyway, that is what I would recommend for grounding out there. Okay, and make sure that the ground connection between your shack and the ground rod down below is not just wire, because at RF you've got the skin effect where all the energy flow is on the surface of whatever connection you've got. That's why braid, which has a huge surface area, or copper strap, which has a large surface area, are best for your RF grounding. Hope that helps. Okay, this is from, let's see, Gene, M0MFJ, would like the name of someone to whom I can talk to about my new MFJ 8-band hex beam. I would think that it would be MFJ or somebody in your club. Only 2 people have answered me on 20 meters. One was in Costa Rica, gave me a 5x8. But I've been calling for long periods of time on various days before that and after. The IC706 indicates good SWR power out. ALC within limits. But the other contact recently, a VE3 from Ontario, said I was so low that he could barely hear me and my signal sounded as though I had RF somewhere. In other words, distortion. I've determined that there are no problems with the feed line. The MFJ analyzer says the coax loss is less than 1/4 dB, but indicates infinite SWR on all bands. Now, are you testing just the coax? Of course, that will give you infinite SWR if it's just the coax, because it's an open circuit. But if you're testing this connected to the hex beam, I have a hex beam. It doesn't have 40 on it, but it's got 20. It's a remarkably good antenna. The antenna, trying to remember, there should be an open circuit between the two, between the center of the coax and the shield, because I don't believe that antenna grounds anything. There are some things where you got a loop, so you've got a DC short. I don't think the hex beam has a DC short. An LDG tuner but measured the SWR without it is infinite. You've got an open circuit in there somewhere. I put the hex beam together. They're big. I had to pound a piece of conduit into the ground just to hold the antenna up while I worked on it. There are lots of parts and pieces to it. You've got either an open circuit or a short circuit. So I would recommend that you double check, one, that the coax, if you take the coax that's going to the antenna, make sure that it shows open circuit between the two. Because if it's shorted, there's something wrong. It could be in the connectors, in the coax. What I do sometimes, this is something I was just looking at today. This is an SO239 with a lamp, 12-volt lamp. And I can go out to the end of the coax and screw it into here, and then go back in the house and put 12 volts on that coax and see if I can see the lamp. And that tests that there are no shorts, no opens, that it's, at least from a DC point of view, okay. You can talk with MFJ, although frankly, I don't think they can tell you anything more than I have. But another thing that you can do is to take a dummy load. This is my dummy load. It's Cantenna. Okay, it'll take up to 1,000 watts for a couple minutes. I'll take that out into the yard and plug the antenna into it, or plug the coax into it, and then when I check the SWR, it should be 1 to 1. Okay, which it won't be if it's open or shorted. So that's another way you can check your feed line. You've got a short or something somewhere. That in the hex beam, there's two parallel lines running up and down like this that all the various antennas elements connect to. And it's very easy to short one of those. And I think that's what's going on with you, because you should find that that hex beam is substantially better than the dipole. An S unit at least better than the dipole. So, name of someone I can talk to. MFJ or a club member or, a club member, somebody who can come over and look at it. It's a popular antenna, so there should be people around who have one. Okay, I think we'll take one or two more. Oh, this is from Ken. There's a book called Stickin' Rudder, which I haven't read it. It was actually written in 1907, and it is considered the classic for how to handle a small plane. But I do have that. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ken. Now, Stacy Ferris she has created a vertical that is similar in concept to a DX Commander, and it's a fan vertical. Okay, she wanted to put a metal mast into the middle of that, and that will completely and totally disrupt the performance of that antenna, which is what I said in the video. She said, would surrounding the metal mast with PVC allow it to work with the quarter wave vertical? No. The PVC is transparent to RF. Transparent to RF. That's why you can use it as insulators and stuff like that, like in the dipoles and so on. You can put fiberglass in there. Okay, make sure it's not fiberglass that's been mixed with metal for strength, but fiberglass will work. PVC is probably too wiggly for that sort of thing. She's basically making the equivalent of a DX Commander. The other alternative is to get a DX Commander because it has the fiberglass bowl in it already. And I know MFJ makes fiberglass bowls and so on that you can use in these things. Don't use anything metal because it'll try to become an element in the antenna, and that's what's going to create the problem. I suppose you could make the mast the long element, like the 40-meter element, and then add in sort of a star configuration around it the shorter elements, and then all you've got in there are elements that are working. You try something like that. Maybe you can invent something new. Okay. Okay, let's see. Bill is interested in communications with Mars. Here's one from Sean Hoffman KO4IDY. I know we're at the end, but I want to go over this one because this one's quite interesting. He is the captain of a ship. A great big old ship. Think ship going through the Suez Canal. And he wants to put an amateur radio antenna on it. Okay, from the top of the mast to the water line's about 114 feet. Was thinking I could use the ship as the ground plane and maybe dispense with the need for radials. Absolutely you can. That ship is an outstanding ground plane, and it's sitting in salt water. And no matter how carefully painted that ship is, it's in electrical contact with the salt water. And what the Navy did was they would put 8-foot whips and then a tuner right at the base. And you can do that easily. LDG makes them, MFJ makes them, ICOM makes them, Yaesu makes them. Antennas that or tuners that will sit right at the base of the antenna and tune that thing wherever you want it to go across the HF band. And I suspect you will have phenomenal response. Obviously, the higher the antenna, the better. The ship's rigging has got a lot of metal in it, so if you can get it up onto the mast, the problem with the mast is you want to be like a quarter wavelength out. So you need some sort of a steel arm or something that you can then put the whip on. You want to be about a quarter wavelength out. You could just drape an inverted V from the mast. You make it long and feed it with ladder line. Keep the ladder line away from the steel. You could tune that on any band. I guess ships don't have radio operators anymore, but otherwise they could rig something up for you in a heartbeat. But yes, you can definitely use that ship as what you describe. Okay, let's go back and take a look at the last few things that have happened here. And let's see. Oh my, there's been a great deal going on here. Do I plan to operate aeronautical mobile on HF? No, I'll be doing VHF. And let's see. Okay, I think I caught some of these. Um, you know, YouTube actually, for DJ, YouTube actually has a feature which will take my videos and compare them with all the other videos on YouTube and will alert me if anybody has lifted any pieces from it. The sunspots improved. What about communications with the ISS and way in the future of the moon? The sunspots will not directly affect it. Communications with the ISS is done at VHF, okay, or higher, and not affected by the ionosphere, and it will be the same with the moon. Okay, by the way, you can do moon bounce communications. That's what Joe Taylor's software was originally set up for, was moon bounce. You can bounce a signal off the moon. Okay, yeah, we lose. Yeah, okay, sorry about that. Video, he spent time to make a clean setup. There is the clock. Ah, yes. Need my Dramamine now. Sorry about that. Okay, Harry Rundle sent $5 for chat revenue and says thank you again for these Q&A sessions and your videos. Great job. It refreshes in this old ham, 74. Hey, wait a minute. I'm not old yet, and I'll be 70 this year. 74 is not old. Well seasoned. Well seasoned. Many facts lost over time. Yes, thank you. Okay, thank you, Harry. Watching from the Philippines. I did my Mormon mission in the Philippines. That was in 1971 to 1973, so that's what, 50 years ago? I suspect. What is the difference between AC and DC powering in respect to RF transmission? Is it just the powering or it produces different RF? It won't produce different RF. It's all rectified, converted to DC, and then used for the amplifiers. William Myers, KA8GIM, puts $10 into the channel funds and says, thanks, Dave, keep up the good work. And any easier program than cubic SDR? Yes. Oh, yeah. Those SDR programs are a pain. I have the little SDR Play radio, and I have their house software, which is SDR Uno, and it works well on the ham bands. I certainly don't know how to use every feature. Joe Rogers says, or Generation says, try GQRX. Optical Man Jeff sends $15 to Channel Fund, says, thanks, Dave. Best day of the week. With COVID, don't get to talk to folks as much, and this is great to interact with everyone. And I am proud to display my 2 vaccination stickers here. I got the Moderna vaccine, both shots. I feel much better about going out in public now. All military radios and Navy ships built for NATO foreign allies, a couple of bits at the end. Yes. Call sign W6CEF. Having trouble getting. Oh yeah. I remember a math teacher once telling me that once you figure it out, it's easy. So if you already know how to do it, it's clear. All right. So, drivers are a problem. Yes, they are. Absolutely. Well, we've had a good evening together, and I've enjoyed it. And so I'll be ready, hopefully flying a little bit more. One of her other students is taking his practical on Monday, so she's giving him some extra help this week. So let's see. Okay, very good. Thank you all very much. Thank you for, things like this, and the letter that came with it. Just, I'm trying to do good for people, and I guess it's happening because, judging from the responses I get, the like to dislike ratio runs about 98 to 99%. So most people like the videos. I appreciate that if you do that. And I'll set up next week's live stream right after we're done here so that it'll be ready for you. We peaked at about 215, so not as many this week. I think there's some other ham radio shows that are on Thursday evenings also. I don't know of a better time though. So, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being part of this community. I just love it. And thank you for being interested in the videos, and thank you for sharing your time with me. And I hope they're helpful. That's my big thing in life. I want to be helpful. I want to somehow make other people's journeys a little bit easier. So, until we next meet, 73.